I'm all over the place here. I'm coming in now.
As we wait for the radical new 2022 regulations and cars, the real-life 2021 F1 season seemed poised to offer few surprises. However, the reality is that this season has so far been the most interesting championship in years. Funnily enough, it's this backdrop that Codemasters has found itself competing against with its own fictional drama, introducing a fully fledged story mode to F1 2021 for the first time in the series. The end result falls a little short of being as dramatic as the real thing, but it's a well-executed and welcome new way to play that joins the series' wide array of existing modes and makes for another excellent package, albeit one that needs a bit of extra content to bring it in line with the real-life 2021 season.
3 abreast going into turn 11. Oh, this can't work! And it doesn't! Ackerman's off onto the verge of what looks like damage as well!
Codemasters flirted with the concept of a story mode 2 years ago in F1 2019 with its brief F2-themed intro, but in F1 2021 the story is a standalone mode akin to the journey from FIFA 17 to 19 or Fight Night Champions titular champion mode, although it's never quite as sentimental as the former or as rousing as the latter.
Oh, I've never seen anything like this on a racetrack before! 2 teammates wheel to wheel! Keep it clean! Inches separating them and they crash! Oh, they've come together!
Dubbed Breaking Point, F1 2021's story focuses on a pair of very different drivers. Rookie Aiden Jackson, a talented Brit who still has some key things to learn about the F1 paddock, and Casper Akkerman, a Dutch journeyman with an illustrious career that's mostly behind him. These fictional drivers will unseat the real-life drivers in your choice of 5 selectable teams, but the rest of the grid will be made up of actual F1 stars from the 2020 and 2021 seasons, plus Codemasters' resident F1 reptile Devin Butler, who returns from his brief appearance as the antagonist at the beginning of F1 2019.
Don't be trying to pass the blame, because you haven't settled in yet.
Beginning in F2 in 2019, Breaking Point sees Jackson graduate to F1 for 2020, where he immediately clashes with old dog Ackerman after a careless on-track incident.
Who was the idiot behind the wheel of your car?
The discord between the two is only exacerbated by Ackerman's general saltiness at what he perceives as preferential treatment for Jackson.
This kid is a new #1 driver.
I don't believe that to be true.
But then why does he get paid more?
Much to the chagrin of likable team liaison Brian Doyle, and much to the delight of the devious Devin Butler. The races in Breaking Point vary from lights to flag events to mid-race situations, each with different challenges to achieve. You may be salvaging positions after some earlier misfortune.
It's okay. I've got this.
Catching a certain car within a specific number of laps, or finishing ahead of a nominated team. The cutscenes are well done and there's a decent authenticity to the performances overall. It's also cute seeing real F1 superstars popping up on the periphery of Jackson and Ackerman's story.
I'm surrounded by my heroes, you know?
It does take quite a while to build up to any real crescendo though, and once it does, it wraps up rather rapidly. I was particularly surprised about how little I knew about Jackson by the end.
You two are like characters in a badly written sitcom.
The obvious need to keep Breaking Point all ages appropriate also makes it feel a little blunted, especially when compared to Netflix's infamously candid F1 docuseries Drive to Survive.
And look at you both, acting like a couple of school kids.
For instance, there's certainly nothing here as fiery as Grosjean's heart-stopping Bahrain crash, or as metaphorically fiery as Gunther Steiner's door getting smashed. Breaking Point also ignores the COVID-19 crisis that had a huge impact on the 2020 and 2021 F1 seasons and includes races which never happened, which is a little incongruous if you dwell on it, but I did quite enjoy how it temporarily turns back the clock to revisit 2020's car and driver combinations, which reminded me a little of the multi-season nature of the fan-favourite F1 Challenge 99-02, which, coincidentally enough, was the last F1 game published by EA before this one.
Aiden Jackson, not how his F1 race debut should have gone.
Sadly, you can't start the standard career modes a few seasons ago in the same way as Breaking Point, but there have been a lot of other tweaks to these modes that I found particularly welcome as a returning player of many years. The ability to run quick automated practice programs is a great addition since they really had become quite a grind. I found the new option to leave the R&D to the AI useful also, even though the R&D system has had a nice facelift. Facility building can also be automated, but I stayed in charge of that to make sure the AI didn't blow all my cash before I had a chance to lure Danny Rick to my team. F1 2021 also introduces a new expert setting that allows you to really fine-tune the career experience to suit the pace you want to play at. You can still toggle assists on and calibrate the AI, but selecting the expert environment opens up a raft of options, including the severity of mechanical faults you might suffer, the rate at which you and the AI teams accumulate resource points and cash, and the intensity of damage. You can accelerate your rise to the pinnacle of F1 or make it incredibly hard. It's up to you. Damage deserves an additional mention because it's much more nuanced than ever before. Damage to your floor, barge boards, or side pods, for instance, will create drag and have a noticeable effect on your top speed.
You've taken damage to the side pods. Expect to feel a little drag.
Tire damage is more convincing too, and it's possible for them to completely delaminate and the tread separate from the sidewall. While the novelty has worn off slightly after bursting onto the scene in F1 2020, My Team is still a brilliant mode. F1 2021 also introduces a pair of brand new 2-player career modes where you can link up with a friend to play as either rivals or teammates. Split screen remains present, but it's separate from the 2-player career modes, which are online based. Handling feels broadly similar to F1 2020, though the cars are on more of a knife's edge when it comes to grabbing too much curb at the wrong moment. Bottom out on a curb or simply unsettle the aero balance enough and the rear will whip around quickly. So F1 2021 demands an exact touch. F1 2021 features no classic cars for the first time in many years, so I won't argue it's the best sounding F1 game to date without any V8s on deck. To be fair, however, there definitely has been some work on the sound this year, and the noticeably more prominent transmission whine adds a fine extra layer to the richness of the car audio. I do think it's the best looking F1 game to date, however, and the enhancements here are across the board. The cars look excellent, particularly when carrying subtle racing damage. Character models are much improved, and trackside detail is the most granular I've seen. Off-track surfaces like grass have received a big leap in fidelity. On the topic of tracks, F1 2021 is currently missing several tracks it needed to be able to accurately simulate the 2021 season from the get-go. That said, Imola, Portimao and the new Jeddah street circuit are reportedly coming free at some point this year. That the real sport can pivot faster than the video game is an unfortunate reality of game development, but F1 2021 currently falls some distance short of being able to properly represent this year's season. F1 2021 is the best looking and most customizable installment of the long-running Codemasters series to date, and the ability to tinker under the hood of the core career experience and play co-op with a friend is very welcome. With the addition of Breaking Point, it's also arguably the boldest F1 game so far. The characterisation is a little underdone, and the E-for-everyone approach means it's quite an airbrushed take on the F1 world compared to Netflix's tense and profanity-laden Drive to Survive, but injecting a story mode into the F1 series was a risk well worth taking, and I'm certainly looking forward to more of it.
And rightly so, a brilliant effort from the whole team.
For a tinier take on racing, check out our hands-on with Hot Wheels Unleashed. And for more of what EA Sports is up to, check out the first glimpse of FIFA 22. For everything else, stick with IGN.
And with that, another year of Formula One draws to a close.